When I got divorced, my whole family sided with my ex and told me to just stay quiet. I told them, I'd rather be alone. 5 days later, I made one decision that changed everything. Now my sister's on the phone screaming, "Please fix this." I'm 32 and never imagined I'd end up in a situation like this. Divorce wasn't something I thought I'd be facing in my 30s, especially after all the plans Daniel and I made. Our life was supposed to be this slow, steady path toward something stable. Or at least that's what I believed. But here I am sitting in my living room staring at my phone wondering how it all got so messy. So here's some context. I'm Nicole, I'm 32, and up until recently I was married to Daniel. We met when I was 23 and everyone assumed we'd be that couple who made it. Daniel was quiet, kind, thoughtful. I've always been a bit of an overthinker, needed a lot of reassurance, but with him I felt grounded. Our marriage wasn't perfect, but it felt solid. The kind of relationship where you don't question too much and figure if most things are okay, it's good enough. I worked in marketing, he was an architect. Our life had a rhythm, simple, predictable, and honestly kind of nice. Then everything shifted. And no, it wasn't some huge dramatic blow-up. It started small. His phone buzzed and I glanced over. A message popped up from someone named Sophia. It just said, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." I didn't react, told myself it was probably nothing. Maybe a coworker. Maybe I was reading into it too much. But then it happened again the next night. Another text. And this one was more intimate. Something about it made me feel sick. I didn't know what to do. Do I confront him? Do I wait for him to say something? I chose to wait, hoping he'd come clean. He didn't. Days went by and his behavior got weird. He was distant, avoided looking at me. When I finally asked, "What's going on?" "I've seen the messages." He brushed it off like it was nothing. "I don't know what you're talking about," he said, not even meeting my eyes. "She's just a friend. Nothing to worry about." But I knew. I trusted my gut. And I was right. A week later I found hard proof. Not by snooping, just by accident. And what I found wasn't just a few flirty texts. It was a full-blown affair. Months of lies. Hiding. Deceiving. And I had no clue. The betrayal was crushing. I felt like I couldn't breathe. That night I told him to leave and not come back. And that's when things got messy. Because this wasn't just about me and Daniel anymore. My family got involved. And if I'm honest, they always kind of were. I've had an okay relationship with my mom and sister Lana. But my mom? She's old school. The type who thinks marriage is sacred no matter what. The type who believes you should suck it up and smile at family dinners, even if your world is falling apart. So when I told them what happened, I wasn't met with comfort. "No, I'm so sorry, Nicole." Instead, my mom looked me in the eye and said, "Are you sure you're not just overreacting? You should have been more understanding. You know how stressed Daniel's been at work." Stressed? Like that was a valid excuse for betrayal. And my sister Lana? She didn't outright blame me, but she may as well have. "Nicole, relationships aren't perfect," she said, like she was offering support. "Maybe this is a wake-up call for both of you." A wake-up call? For who, me? Or the man who lied to me for months? Then she said the line that really got to me, "Maybe it's better if you just stay quiet. No need to make a scene." Like my pain was a problem. Like my heartbreak had to stay hidden so the family wouldn't be uncomfortable. It's not something the whole family needs to be dragged into. Just keep it private. The nerve. As if the betrayal didn't matter. As if my hurt was an inconvenience. This wasn't just about the end of my marriage anymore. It was about keeping up appearances. Pretending everything was fine just to protect the family name. And I couldn't do it. I didn't scream. I didn't throw anything. But inside I snapped. I reached a point where I couldn't keep pretending. 5 days later I made a move that probably shocked everyone. I didn't text Daniel. I didn't ask him to talk. I didn't beg him to come back. Instead I wrote a letter. No yelling, no rage. Just one message. "I know what you've been doing. I'm done. Don't contact me again." That was it. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about me. Taking back my power. Choosing peace. And I meant it. I didn't hear anything from him right away, but I could feel the shift. The silence was loud. Then came the phone calls. Lana first. Then my mom. Both of them furious. "What did you do?" Lana yelled the second I answered. She sounded panicked, her voice cracked with fear. "Mom's losing it. You've gone too far, Nicole. You need to fix this." You're making a huge mistake. I kept my voice calm. Lana, I didn't make the mistake. Daniel did. I'm not going to lie for him. Not for him and not for this family. Please, she begged. Just talk to Mom. She's falling apart. You're making this a public thing. You're making us look bad. And there it was again. The family image. What about my image? What about how I felt? But they didn't get it. After I sent the letter, things didn't quiet down. Not around me. Inside me, though. Something shifted. It wasn't guilt I felt. Not regret. It was something else. Clarity. Like I could finally breathe. For the first time in years, I made a decision that wasn't about keeping the peace. It was about protecting myself. But that didn't stop the storm around me. Those first few days were hard. Daniel didn't respond. No text. No call. No email. Nothing. And weirdly, that silence hurt. I expected something. Anger, excuses, even a fake apology. But there was just silence. Still, I reminded myself, the letter wasn't for him. It was for me. And then the calls from my family started again. Lana's voice this time sounded like she was breaking. You can't just leave it like this, Nicole, she pleaded. Mom's already falling apart. She's saying you're tearing the family apart. Is that what you want? My stomach knotted. But I didn't budge. Lana, I'm not trying to destroy anything, I said. I'm just trying to do what's right for me. Right for me. That's what this has always been about. You can't keep asking me to stay quiet while my world is falling apart. This isn't about keeping up appearances or faking smiles. It's about being real. But she didn't understand. I could hear the tension building in her voice. Please, Nicole, she said. I don't want to be in the middle. Don't make me choose between you and Mom. And that was the moment it all shifted. I realized then that this wasn't just affecting me. Everyone else was tangled in it too. Lana was stuck, torn between loyalty to our mother and trying to support me. It was painful for her to see me stand up for myself because for so long she had been the one smoothing things over, keeping the peace no matter the cost. But I wasn't doing this just to stand up to Daniel anymore. I was standing up to all of them. The silent rules. The pressure. The unspoken expectation that I'd just swallow my pain and smile through it. I let her keep talking, let her pour out her fear and confusion. But I didn't change my mind. I can't go back, Lana, I said quietly. I just can't. After we hung up, I sat in my apartment in total silence. For the first time in days, no one was asking me to explain. No one was questioning my choices. And for a few minutes it felt peaceful. But the calm didn't last. The next day my mom called. I'd been expecting it. Bracing for it. Still, when I saw her name light up my screen, my chest tightened. I picked up, heart pounding. Nicole, please, she said immediately. We have to talk. This can't go on. Your father and we're beside ourselves. You're acting like you've just given up. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. What was I even supposed to say to that? I wanted her to understand me. But she wasn't listening. I haven't given up, I told her. I've just stopped staying in something that's breaking me. She paused, then her voice softened. I'm not saying you have to stay with Daniel. But think about the bigger picture. What about the family? What will people say? This whole thing, it's making us look like we failed. There was again. Family image. The same theme that had ruled my life for as long as I could remember. The idea that how we looked mattered more than how we felt. Even if I was miserable, I was supposed to keep things polished. I was supposed to stay small so the family could stay proud. I don't care what people think, Mom, I said more firmly this time. I care about being happy. And if that means I have to make choices that upset you, then I'll live with that. She didn't answer right away. I could tell she was searching for the right words, but they weren't coming. She didn't know how to respond to this version of me. Confident, clear, done. When she finally did speak, her voice cracked. You're going to regret this. You don't even understand how much this will hurt you. Please, talk to him. Talk to us. You don't have to go through this alone. I'm not alone, I said softly. I have myself. And I hung up. It was hard, harder than I thought it would be. But I knew I couldn't keep living for their comfort. I couldn't keep pretending I was fine when I was drowning under their expectations. Still, even with all that clarity, I couldn't escape the feeling of loneliness. It crept in quietly. Even though I knew I was doing the right thing, even though I felt strong in my decision, There were moments where the silence echoed too loud. Strange, really. You think loneliness shows up when you're stuck in something that's already broken. When you're faking happiness. But the real loneliness? It hits when you finally speak your truth. When you start choosing yourself. I didn't reach out to anyone for a few days. I just needed the space. To breathe. To exist without someone telling me how much I was hurting them, how much I was destroying the family. But then a few days after my mom's call, Lana showed up. No warning, no text, just knocked on my door like the situation wasn't already tense enough. Her face was flushed, eyes puffy from crying. "You can't keep doing this, Nicole," she said, stepping inside before I even had a chance to speak. "You're making everything worse, for all of us." I saw it in her expression, the guilt, the tension, and under all of it, fear. Fear that this growing divide would eventually pull her into it, whether she wanted to be involved or not. "I'm not trying to hurt anyone," I said, my voice low. "But you have to stop expecting me to fix something that's already shattered." "I'm not asking you to fix it," she snapped, her tone sharp. "I'm asking you to stop making it worse. You're embarrassing the family, Nicole. Don't you care what this is doing to Mom and Dad? They're barely keeping it together while you're out here airing everything." The anger I'd been suppressing all week started bubbling up. "I'm not the one who went public, Lana. I'm just trying to breathe without feeling like I'm suffocating." She paused, then finally really looking at me, like she was noticing for the first time that I wasn't the same sister she thought she knew. And for a split second I saw something shift in her eyes. Maybe it was clarity. Maybe it was regret. I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered, her voice shaky. "I want things to be normal again. I want us to be a family. But I couldn't go back to that version of family. The one where my silence was expected, where I was praised for keeping the peace at the cost of my own happiness. "I can't," I said quietly. "I won't." Lana stood still for a moment, fidgeting with her hands like she was holding back everything she wanted to say. Then she turned around and walked out the door, leaving me standing there, unsure if we'd ever talk the same way again. The silence that followed her visit lingered like fog, heavy, thick, impossible to shake. I sat alone thinking about how everything had collapsed so fast. It was like once the dam broke, there was no holding anything back. And now all I could do was try not to get swept away in the flood. As tempting as it was to stay wrapped up in the quiet, something inside me began to stir. A restlessness. A need to reclaim something I hadn't even realized I'd lost. I thought about how many years I let Daniel steer the ship, how often I stepped aside so his needs could come first, how I'd buried my own feelings, bit my tongue, and played nice just to avoid rocking the boat. But that version of me? She was gone. I started thinking about everything he'd done, not just the affair but the build-up. The subtle lies. The twisted logic. The gaslighting that made me question my own reality. It wasn't just infidelity. It was manipulation. And he wasn't going to walk away like none of it mattered. He needed to know this wasn't something I'd pretend didn't happen. I didn't have some dramatic revenge plan in mind. That's never been my style. But something inside me shifted. I'd been silenced for too long, by him, by my family, by the world around me. This was different. This wasn't revenge. It was about taking my power back. So I started digging. I pulled up old messages, receipts, notes, anything he'd left behind. I went through it all with a level of focus I hadn't felt in years. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like I was betraying the part of me that just wanted to move on. But the more I uncovered, the clearer it became. Daniel hadn't just cheated. He had manipulated me in small daily ways. Ways that chipped away at my trust, my confidence, my voice. And even though I knew about the affair, I hadn't realized just how deep. The lies went, how long he'd been looking me in the eye while hiding so much. Everything started unraveling fast. It wasn't just the cheating, he'd been hiding money too. At first I thought it was just a few secret purchases or some dumb spending, but it turned out to be way worse. There were random wire transfers to unknown accounts, credit card charges for things he couldn't afford, and big cash withdrawals that didn't add up. It was like he had a whole second life I knew nothing about. My stomach dropped as I connected the dots. This wasn't one mistake. This was years of deception, of quietly eroding my trust until there was nothing left. And at that moment I knew, I couldn't just walk away and let him skate by without consequences. So I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out to an old college friend, Emily. She's a lawyer now, and even though we hadn't talked in years, I knew she was smart, tough, and the exact person I needed in my corner. I didn't unload everything right away. I just told her I needed help understanding some things, casually, trying not to sound like I was spiraling. But she didn't hesitate. "If you've got proof, Nicole," she said, "we can definitely take action. But I need the whole picture." That's when I really got serious. I went through every document, message, and receipt with laser focus. What I found made my blood boil. He'd used money from our shared accounts for hotel stays, fancy dinners, and gifts I never saw, things that lined up way too neatly with his so-called business trips. I traced dates, places, names. The truth was right there in black and white. And the more I found, the less I cared about sparing him. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about holding him accountable, about finally putting myself first. I didn't want a messy public fight, but I also wasn't going to let him walk away clean. I had a plan. It was subtle, smart, and right where it would hurt him the most. His reputation. Daniel was obsessed with his image. At work, he was the golden boy, charismatic, polished, the guy everyone loved. And I was about to tear that mask off. With Emily's help, I collected every bit of evidence. Bank statements, hotel bookings, receipts. She connected me with the right people, and together, we uncovered more than I'd ever imagined. Things Daniel had done that were borderline illegal. Things that could destroy not just his career but his entire professional legacy. But this wasn't just about legality. It was about image, perception. And Daniel had spent his entire life curating a perfect one. He was always careful, always in control. Till now. I started contacting a few of his co-workers, people who already sensed something wasn't right. I didn't come in angry or emotional. I was calm, composed, and careful. But every conversation added fuel to the fire. They had stories too, stories of shady decisions, inappropriate behavior, and moments when Daniel's charming act slipped. They didn't know everything, but they knew enough. And with their help, I built a new version of Daniel, the real one. A version I wasn't afraid to expose. It only took a few calls. A few quiet words in the right ears. And I could feel it happening. He was losing his grip. The panic was starting to set in. And that was just the beginning. Meanwhile, my family wouldn't let up. Lana kept texting, calling, even showing up unannounced. I could hear the panic in her voice, the urgency in her words. She wanted me to make things right. But I wasn't trying to fix anything. Not for her. Not for them. Not for anyone. And then the moment came. I set up a meeting with Daniel's boss. A man he respected deeply. A man who saw him as more than just an employee. I didn't know exactly how it would go, but one thing was certain. I was ready. I walked into that meeting with Emily beside me, holding everything I needed. Documents, receipts, timelines. Every lie, every dollar Daniel moved, every hotel stay. It was all there, laid out in black and white. I kept my voice calm, steady, focused only on facts. "I'm not here to cause trouble," I told Daniel's boss. "But I think you deserve to know the truth about the person you've trusted." The silence in the room was thick. I watched as his expression shifted from confusion to disbelief. He didn't say much at first, just leaned back in his chair and took it all in. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and serious. "This is a lot. But I'll take care of it." At that moment, I realized it wasn't just about exposing Daniel anymore. It was about pulling off the mask he'd been wearing for years, showing the people around him who he really was. I wasn't looking for drama or vengeance. I just wanted the truth to have weight. As I walked out of that office, I felt something unfamiliar. Relief. Closure. Maybe even pride. Daniel had never expected me to fight back. He thought I'd stay quiet and play the role I always had. But that version of me was gone. And now, his carefully built life was starting to come undone, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. The fallout came faster than I expected. After that meeting, things started moving quickly. Whether it was the strength of the evidence or just the shock of it all, I don't know. But it wasn't long before things spiraled. Daniel's boss spoke with the company's legal team quietly behind closed doors. Within a week, Daniel was put on temporary leave. A formal investigation was launched, and deals he had managed were suddenly put on hold. People started asking questions about the money, about the ethics of his work, about whether they had missed signs. I hadn't set out to destroy his career. But I needed him to understand how serious this all was. He'd lied. He'd manipulated. He had built a house of cards on top of years of deceit, And now it was falling apart. Meanwhile, my phone didn't stop buzzing. Voicemails piled up. My family was spiraling. Lana's messages were the most intense. Pleading, accusing, desperate. She said I was tearing the family apart. She said I needed to stop. But all I could think was, where were you when I was the one being torn apart? Their reaction only proved what I already knew. This had never been about right or wrong for them. It was about keeping up appearances. The image of the perfect family, no matter how broken it really was. I wasn't interested in playing that game anymore. Eventually, I gave in and answered her call. I don't know if it was guilt or just exhaustion, but I picked up. Her voice was shaky the moment she spoke. Nicole, please. I don't know what you think you're doing, but you're blowing this up. This is bigger than you realize. Mom and Dad, they don't even know what to say anymore. Her words hit hard, but I didn't flinch. I'm not trying to ruin anything, Lana. I'm just finally dealing with what's been broken for years. I kept quiet for all of you. I stayed silent to make everyone else comfortable. But I've been miserable. I can't pretend anymore. She didn't answer right away. Just silence. Then finally, then what? What do you want me to do? How do? We even fix this? I let out a long breath, feeling the weight of everything I'd held in. I don't want to fix it. I can't fix it. Daniel made his choices. Now he has to deal with the fallout. I'm done trying to repair something that's already in ruins. The line went quiet again. I could hear her breathing, hear her struggling to take it all in. And then, in a voice so small it barely sounded like hers, she said, I don't get why you had to make this so public, she said. Why couldn't you just walk away quietly without making it a scene? My chest tightened. Because I've been walking away quietly my whole life, I said. I've lived in silence trying to meet everyone else's expectations, and I'm done. I want to live without constantly tiptoeing around for other people's comfort. Lana didn't answer. The line just went silent, and it hung there heavy with everything we both couldn't say. I felt a flicker of guilt, but it passed. I couldn't back down now. Not after everything. A few days later, I got a letter from Daniel's lawyer. It didn't surprise me, but it still hit hard. They wanted to start the divorce process. The letter was polite on the surface, but the message was clear. They wanted this to stay quiet. They even offered a favorable settlement, if I agreed to keep the details of his behavior private. I met with Emily one more time. She helped me draft a firm response. No to the hush money, no to the easy way out. We made it clear I was moving ahead with the divorce, and I'd also be pursuing legal action for the money he stole. This wasn't just about cheating. It was about years of deceit, manipulation, and financial control. I couldn't let him walk away clean. By then, it had all spiraled beyond what I originally imagined. Daniel was slipping, fast. The perfect image he'd built was falling apart, one lie at a time. And the best part? He couldn't stop it. His secrets were out and there was no burying them now. I could feel the panic rising in him even from a distance. Guilt, fear, it was finally catching up. When the divorce was finalized, the fallout was clear. His company distanced itself. Clients pulled out. His tight circle of friends started to vanish one by one. The man who had spent years crafting a spotless reputation was suddenly exposed for who he really was. And the world around him reacted. As for me, I found peace. At first, the quiet in the apartment felt strange. But soon I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Freedom. No more pretending. No more smiling through the pain. No more protecting everyone else's comfort while losing mine. Before everything wrapped up, Lana stopped by one last time. She looked different. Softer maybe. Still carrying guilt, but something in her had shifted. I still don't get it, she said as we sat at the kitchen table. Why did you go after him like that? Why not just walk away? I looked her in the eye. It is Lana. I've spent my life letting things slide. I stayed quiet while everyone else got to live out loud. I finally realized I couldn't keep living like that. I needed to stand up, for myself. I needed to do this for me. Tears welled up in her eyes. I don't know if I'll ever really understand, she said. But I guess I respect you for standing your ground. And that was enough. I didn't need full approval anymore. I had chosen myself. I had taken back my voice. And for the first time I felt free. The family drama still lingered in the background, but it didn't weigh me down like before. Daniel had learned the hard way that choices have consequences. me. I had learned that real healing comes when you stop hiding, stop settling, and finally let go of what's holding you back.